Welcome to Love Your Life After Divorce, the podcast where you'll learn everything you need to know to rebuild your life after divorce from the inside out. Let's dive in. Hey there. Today I want to talk to you about other people's opinions of your divorce. By now, you've probably realized that lots of people in your life have an opinion on your divorce. This can be difficult to navigate and it can cause some painful emotions when you feel judged by other people, and it also just causes you to judge yourself. First of all, I want to tell you that it is normal to care about other people's opinions. It doesn't mean that you're weak or shallow. There's actually a really good reason that most people care about other people's opinions of their lives, especially big things like getting a divorce. If you think about it, humans are social beings. We live and operate in groups. Back when we were like hunter gatherers and lived in tribes, belonging to the group actually equaled survival. And rejection, harsh judgment, being kicked out of the tribe equaled death. It was really hard back then to survive on your own in the wilderness. And so, just that mentality is really seared into our primitive brains, which we all still have that old primitive brain underneath the layers of our newer, more developed brain. And so it makes perfect sense that we don't like being rejected, that we don't like being judged, that we want to be accepted and understood. And so, first of all, I just want you to know that that is a completely normal human need that we all have. The second reason that a lot of us care about other people's opinions of our divorce is because we are people pleasers and perfectionists. And when we have those tendencies, we just want other people to be happy with us. We want them to approve of us. We're used to living our lives in a certain way to get other people to agree with us and so that we can feel good about ourselves. Now, that is something that a lot of us need to work on, especially as women. We really are conditioned to be people pleasers. We're conditioned to put other people's needs above our own, to always be thinking about how to serve other people, of how to make them more comfortable. And so when we go through a divorce, that can be really uncomfortable for us when we realize that we're not pleasing all the people with what we're going through, especially if you're the one who decided to get a divorce. And perfectionism often goes hand in hand with people pleasing. But when you think about being a perfectionist and going through a divorce, it just feels like this big stain. I remember thinking of it as just this blight on my perfect record of being a good girl, of like following all the rules, doing the right things. And then I get a divorce, and it just felt like I wasn't living life correctly. The correct path is to get married, to have kids, and just to stay married forever. And I know that's speaking generally, and there are lots of pockets of people and populations that don't see it that way. But I think for the vast majority of us in the United States, for sure, being married is the socially accepted way of living. And so, not being married, getting a divorce can make you feel like a little bit of an outcast, or that you're not quite fitting in to society's standards of how you're supposed to be living. So, that can feel a bit painful. And then I think another reason that we all care about what other people think is that we just want to be supported and loved while going through this painful thing of divorce. It's hard to feel really lonely and isolated when you're going through such strong emotions, when you are in emotional pain. We want other people to come alongside us, to support us in that. And so I think that's another reason that we care what other people think, because we want their support. We want their love. We want them to be there for us. So again, please know it is normal to care what other people think. However, it's not always helpful. As you can probably guess, or maybe have already experienced for yourself, caring a lot what other people think can cause you a lot of emotional pain and self judgment and self doubt. I distinctly remember how it felt to me to have people give me different opinions of what they thought about my divorce. I'm the one who really chose the divorce in our situation, or at least spearheaded it. And so I had, multiple friends and family who were disappointed, who were questioning my decision, who wanted to understand why I got to that point. And then I had other people in my life who valued my decision, who were impressed almost with my ability to prioritize myself, my courage to step out, to do something really scary and unknown. It was terrifying to decide to leave the comfort of my intact family, of my, stay at home mom gig that I had going on. It was really hard to leave that and to forge a life, for myself and to become more independent. So I had some people in my life who really spoke to me about that in a way that helped me feel stronger, independent, better about my decision to get a divorce. And so it was just interesting to notice how other people's opinions affected me during that time. And so, what I want to share with you today is it can be really unhelpful and even harmful to focus too much on other people's opinions of your divorce. Ultimately, the only person's opinion who really, really matters is your own. I'm going to get more into that in a minute. But really, honestly, that is the focus of this episode is realizing and acknowledging and grasping onto the truth that your opinion of your divorce is the most important one for you. So why is it not helpful to focus on other people's opinions? Well, for one, like I've already said, it causes emotional pain, but also I think it really limits your ability to heal and grow and move forward. Because when you're focused on what other people think, you're not focused on your own healing and growth. You're not focused on who you want to be and how you want to change and develop. So, there are multiple groups of people in your life whose opinion of your divorce might matter to you. Now, when you think about it, most of us, when we decide to get a divorce, it's like a ripple effect of, throwing a little pebble into the water and it ripples out. We start with the nucleus of who's closest to us. We tell those people first, and then we start telling more and more people who are farther away from our center of close people in our lives. If you have kids, they are probably one of the very first people that you told. Maybe you told your mom or your best friend, first before you told your kids. But telling your kids is a very important part of telling people in general about your divorce. Now, let me say this, and I want to be very clear. Your kids' feelings about your divorce matter immensely. I 100% believe that we should do everything we can to support our kids as they deal with the uncertainty, with the fears, with the sadness, with the anger, with the confusion. When they have all their feelings about the divorce, it is incredibly important for us to hear those, for our kids to feel like they matter, that they can voice how they're feeling, that we are a safe place for them to share all the thoughts and feelings they're having. It matters immensely to be supportive of your kids. However, their opinion on whether or not you should have gotten a divorce are not as important as your own opinion. I don't think it's helpful or appropriate to let your kids dictate whether you should or should not get a divorce. It's not helpful for you to allow your kids' opinions to inform how you feel about yourself or how you feel about your decision to get the divorce. So I hope that you see that distinction because it's important. How your kids feel and what they need emotionally is incredibly vital. And I believe it is your job as the adult parent to support your kids and give them what they need. However, it's also really important that you stand behind your decision, that you don't give your kids too much power in deciding whether your divorce was good for you, appropriate, okay to make. So, on to your extended family. That might be the next kind of little group of people that you talk to about your divorce. Obviously, your parents, your siblings, if you have other close family members, maybe you were raised by grandparents or have a really close relationship with an aunt or an uncle, having their support makes a huge difference in how you experience your divorce. And so it makes sense that you really want them to understand and to support you. But again, you have to remember that they don't really understand exactly what it was like to live your life with your ex. They don't know what it was like day in and day out to be in a relationship with him. And so you can express yourself, you can tell them all the things, you can answer all their questions, but at the end of the day, you still have to remember having your own back, Knowing what's best for you is more important than having your extended family's approval of your divorce. Now, having friends and especially mutual friends, can be really tricky when you're getting a divorce. I definitely know how it feels firsthand to lose mutual friends. A lot of mutual friends feel like they need to choose a side. They need to decide which person to support or which person to maintain a friendship with. And it can be incredibly painful when you get rejected, basically, and when people just cut you out of their life because they don't agree with your decision or how you're going about it. And honestly, at the end of the day, you have to let them make their decision. You have to understand that they have their own experience, that they are choosing to support your ex, instead of you for a reason. And you have to let that go. Losing friends during a divorce can be really painful and difficult, but you're also going to gain some new friends. You are in a transition period. You're figuring out how to build a new life. And some of those old friends, even if you've had them for 20 plus years, some of those old friends are not going to come along with you. And as painful as it is, the best course of action is just to accept it, to understand that they are able to choose how they want to proceed. They're able to choose whether they want to maintain a friendship with you or not. And as quickly as you can move on from that and let those people go, the better it will be for you. Now, some of us also have a religious or a church community, and this can also be a little tricky to navigate. You may be in a religion or a church community where people view divorce as wrong or as a sin. It may be a hard decision to know whether you should stay in this faith community or not. And ultimately, it is up to you and what you think is best for you. But I just want to encourage you, if you're in a situation where you feel like you're being really negatively judged for getting a divorce, there are plenty of churches and religious groups who don't judge divorce in the same way. You can find a supportive religious community. And if that's important to you, I just really encourage you to find it. But don't feel like you have to keep putting yourself in a situation where you feel extremely judged or ashamed or like you're not equally important as other people who belong to the community who may still be married or who haven't gotten a divorce. You don't have to subject yourself to that environment if you don't want to. Then we go on to, as we go out in the little ripple effect of who we're telling about the divorce, acquaintances, people that you know, like maybe other parents of, kids on the same sports team or parents from kids in your kids' class, people that you just interact with on a superficial level at the gym or somewhere else you go. Those people are going to probably eventually find out or notice that you aren't sitting with your ex husband anymore at games, or you guys don't ride together when you go to events. And what I want to say about these types of relationships is that you get to decide what you want to share and exactly what you want to say about your divorce. But the bottom line is, you do not have to share anything that you don't feel comfortable sharing. You are not obligated to explain your divorce to anyone else. It can be as simple as, we got a divorce, period, end of story. There's no need to explain. And honestly, this goes for anyone. I'm talking about it here with just acquaintances, but even friends, even family, you are not under any obligation to go into detail about why the divorce happened. You're not obligated to explain to anyone the choice either you or your ex made. I want to point out here again that there is a little bit of a social stigma. I think it's changing for sure, and divorce is much more common these days. And so things have changed. But historically, divorce has been frowned upon. And so there can be a little bit of embarrassment. Even when you meet a brand new person that doesn't know you and you're getting to know them, I remember that feeling of having to say, "Oh, I'm divorced," and how it felt almost like this scarlet letter, and I was, stigmatized, I was ostracized, even just a little bit, right? I don't know if you guys can relate to that, but it's not a great feeling. I mean, historically, women are just more valued when they're married. Whether or not we like that, that's historically how it's been. Think about that card game we used to play, Old Maid. Do you guys remember that game? I was thinking about that the other day. The Old Maid, if you had the Old Maid, you would lose the game. Like the Old Maid was bad. Nobody wanted the Old Maid. And it's just so interesting to notice little things like that that show that culturally, historically, divorced or unmarried women are not thought of as highly as those who are married. Even now, there are jokes about, oh, this lonely old cat lady who just has a house full of cats but has no husband. That's such an awful thing to be. So it's just interesting to notice how, in wider society, divorced women are not seen as valuable as married women. And so it makes sense that it might feel embarrassing to admit that you're divorced or that you don't like telling people that at first. So when we think about how we are sharing information with all these different people in our lives about the fact that we are getting a divorce or that we are already divorced, I want you to just notice when you're operating in this energy of like wanting people to understand. I think there's a reason why we feel this urge to get people to understand. It's so that they don't judge us or think badly of us. And honestly, we got to let that go. It's really not helpful. It wastes a lot of our time and energy to try to get the other people in our lives to understand why we got a divorce. If you chose divorce, you're probably worried that people think you're selfish or that you don't care about your kids or that you don't know how to work through hard things. Now, if your ex wanted the divorce, you may worry that people are thinking that you're not good enough or pretty enough or interesting enough, that you're not a good enough wife for someone to want to stay married to, that there's something wrong with you. All of those thoughts of self judgment can be so incredibly painful. If your ex had an affair, you may be feeling stupid or embarrassed that you didn't catch it sooner or that other people knew before you did. That can be a really embarrassing or painful place to be. As I share those examples of what we might be fearing that other people think, I hope you can see why it's a problem sometimes to care so much about what other people's opinions are of our divorce. And so I think learning how to not care as much can be really helpful. And that's what I want to share with you right now. How do you stop caring about what other people think? Well, first of all, I think understanding what you're afraid that other people are thinking is a good place to start because we can question that. Like I just shared, there are all those reasons and fears that we have and things that we assume other people might be thinking of us. And I want to point out that very, very often when we are fearing someone else's judgment, it's because we are judging ourselves on that exact same thing. If you are worried that other people think you are selfish for choosing a divorce, then you think you're being selfish for choosing a divorce. If you're worried that other people think you're stupid, then you think you're stupid. And so, first of all, it's important to notice that and to work through those issues on your own. It's painful to think that you were stupid and that you should have seen the signs or you should have figured it out sooner than you did. It's painful for you to think that you don't care about your kids because you chose to get a divorce. And so that's your work. That's the part where you find a good life coach or a therapist or a good friend to talk through these things with. You journal, you figure it out, you work on those negative beliefs about yourself. And once you work on those within yourself, that in and of itself will allow you to not care as much what other people think because you know what you think of yourself. When you can have your own back, when you trust yourself, when you believe that you know what's best for you, then it doesn't matter to you what other people think. So that is a huge way to overcome a fixation or a worry about other people's opinions of your divorce. So just remember, one way to develop this and to learn to have your own back is to keep in mind that no one else knows what your relationship was like. I had a very wise friend tell me when I was going through my divorce, no one knows what someone lives with or without. Because for me, it was living without. It wasn't that my ex husband was abusive or horrible or did bad things. It was just that we were so disconnected. We didn't have the type of relationship that was fulfilling. And so that may be your experience as well. And that's hard to explain to people. But the bottom line is, no one else knows what it was like. You are the only one who knows. You're the only one who had to experience day in, day out, the dynamics of the relationship that you were in. And therefore, your opinion is the only one that matters. Your opinion of the divorce is truly the only one that matters. And when you truly believe that, then you'll start focusing on what you think, what you know is best. It won't matter to you what other people think. They're free to have their own opinions. They're free to be wrong about you. That's one of my favorite things to say because historically I have been such a people pleaser in my life, and having other people have an accurate view of me or an accurate opinion was always so important to me. And I learned from one of my mentors and life coaches that it's okay for people to be wrong about me. That is so freeing. It allows me to stop trying to convince anyone else to believe a certain thing about me. They are free to have their opinion, and it's okay if it's wrong. And so, one thing I want to offer you as a helpful strategy is to come up with some little go to phrases that help you stay on track when you're tempted to start worrying about someone else's opinion of your divorce. You can think things like this: I know what's best for me. I'm the only one who understands what it was like to be married to him. My needs and wants are important, and I'm choosing to honor myself. No one else has to understand. So I hope that those phrases and the idea of having your own back, of believing that you know what's best for you, I hope that those things can help you get to the point where you release the need for other people to approve of your divorce. I hope it helps you overcome that strong urge to have other people approve of your divorce or to not judge you for your divorce. When you can let that go, when you can stop caring about other people's opinions of your divorce, it is so freeing. It allows you to move forward. It allows you to focus on what's important, which is your own healing, your children's healing, your own relationship with yourself and with the people in your life that really matter to you. Those are the important things to focus on. So I just encourage you to do what it takes right now to stop caring so much about what other people think of your divorce. Did you know that there are 5 distinct stages to healing after divorce? Which stage are you currently in? And how can you successfully move to the next stage? Find out by getting the free roadmap so you can heal and move on faster after divorce. Simply go to my website, angiewilsoncoaching.com, and click Get the Free Roadmap.